Hello, boils, germs, and themfections. I'm Certified Plague Vector Campbell McLaughlin, welcoming you to Goonhammer's review of Codex Death Guard. The army has received a pretty major shift in identity since the Index, and there's a ton of new ways to play. While the end result is recognizable, almost every datasheet has changed in some way, usually for the better, and their army rule has been vastly improved. The focus has shifted from melee to mid-range shooting, and pretty much any marine infantry unit in the book got a bump to their toughness. We would like to thank Games Workshop for providing us with a review copy of the Codex. If your preferred vector of infection is text instead of video, head on over to goonhammer.com for a written companion article. Link in the description. Nobody is safe from YouTube list making, and we couldn't help but get cute with the Nurgle numerology. Here's the 7 things you've got to know about this book. Contagions have changed. Picking one of 3 contagion effects is now an army-wide ability, not something linked to a single detachment. This is a massive help for the army, and it makes it possible for the other detachments to shine. Almost everything is tougher. If it's a dude wearing power armor or Terminator armor, his toughness has gone up. Hell, even if it was a big demonic monster, it might have gotten a bump too. Your shooting units have gotten way better. The army's moved to more of a medium-range shooting army than a melee army in some respects, but the melee is still good. There's a ton of variety here. Looking at this book makes it clear that you've got a lot of choices for how to run your army, and they'll still be good. All Plague Marines? Sure. Vehicles? You got it. Terminators? 150 Poxwalkers? Gross, but okay, you can do that too. A focus on synergy. Loads of rules interact with the Nurgle's Gift Army rule, others spread it further across the board, and characters like the Lord of Virulence interact with a variety of units to hand out rerolls and other bonuses. Demons are also here. Between you and me, I'm still not convinced GW knows exactly what to do with demons between the 3 games that use their models, but most of the Nurgle ones are still in here, save for some named characters. The detachments are great. Each detachment has a clear use case, specializing in a different flavor of Death Guard units with some very powerful stratagems and enhancements. No stinkers in here. Army rules. Death Guard armies all gain access to the Nurgle's Gift ability. This is the same ability as the Index detachment, an aura that starts at 3 inches in the first turn, 6 inches in the second, and 9 inches in the third turn onwards, projected by each and every one of your Death Guard units. What's different here is that being within this range makes enemy units afflicted, handing out a -1 toughness debuff as well as the plague you chose at the start of the game. These plagues are essentially the old Plague Company ones from the Index detachment, but now they're rolled into the main army rule. Skull Squirm Blight now just gives a flat -1 to hit to enemy units instead of the old -1 to ballistic skill and weapon skill, which means you can no longer stack it with -1 to hit. There's still a ton of value here though, and it shouldn't be slept on. Rattle Joint Ague stays the same, conferring -1 to save. This is probably your default unless you're going into an army with a ton of invulnerable saves. Last but certainly least, Scabrous Soul Rot now affects movement in addition to objective control and leadership, giving -1 to all 3. While this is better than it was, it doesn't really stack up to the other 2. These plagues are a huge buff to the army rules, and it makes the Grotmist detachment, Flyblown Host, much better, while still leaving plenty of room for the other detachments to shine like the soggy pustules they are. Death Guard armies have access to 6 detachments in the new Codex, plus a 7th if you count Flyblown Host, which you absolutely should. We'll have detachment focus videos out for all of them, but here's the high notes. Virulent Victorium is your all-rounder detachment, helping pretty much every unit in the army and providing a good bit of flexibility. There's stratagems to buff your durability, give yourself a bit more killing power, and increase your Nurgle's Gift aura. It also gives army-wide sticky objectives, and whatever they're covering those suckers with generates a plague aura too. This one is probably going to see the most play, and sticking objectives with any unit in your army is the kind of benefit that seems small but makes a huge difference, especially with an elite army like this one. Mortarion's Hammer is a tank-focused detachment, offering a load of stratagems that almost exclusively target your vehicles, while giving you the ability to infect a few extra units per turn outside of your contagion range. The infantry in this book are really good, so focusing on vehicles might be a little bit too niche. Champions of Contagion is especially plague-centric, letting you change your plague every battle round and double up on plagues with its enhancements and stratagems. It's also got extra focus on characters, letting them move between units or toughen up with a few of its stratagems. Taliban Summoners lets you stew a pot of viscous, gooey demon soup, spending up to half your army's points on demons. Keeping your demons and marines close together enhances that Death Guard contagion range, and a stratagem lets demons get in on the contagious fun as well. Enhancements and other stratagems generally encourage your units to stick together, making for easier charges out of deep strike, or encouraging a little bit of friendly fire if it means hitting the enemy. Shamblerot Vectorium is a Poxwalker-themed detachment, giving you 2 to 4 free units of Poxwalkers depending on the size of your game. All of the enhancements focus on characters leading Poxwalker units, and the stratagems are particularly thematic, letting your idiot zombies take the hits for your more valuable Marines, or just scaring the bejesus out of enemy units by forcing leadership tests on them. This is your Terminator detachment. Deathlords chosen can potentially cause mortal wounds to every afflicted unit on the board in your opponent's command phase. It's a weird combo with the stratagems and enhancements, all of which focus on making your Terminators more maneuverable and a smidge better at spreading their plagues around. Lastly, it's not in this book, but Flyblown Host is the 7th detachment you can run. It's bound to see a lot of play since it makes your already good infantry even better, but it's not the only way to buff your stinky boys. We still expect this one to be very strong. Before we get to the good stuff, I've got some bad news. Our friend the Chaos Lord in Terminator armor was flying his single-engine Cessna with his buddies the Chaos Lord and Terminator Sorcerer, and the Death Guard cultists were sitting in the back. The Terminator Lord tried to do a cool loop-de-loop and hit a mountain. There were no survivors, and their datasheets were removed from the Codex. But hey, good news! There are 2 new datasheets in the book, the first of which is the Lord of Poxes. He gives his unit 18-inch lone operative, which is great for a big brick of Plague Marines wandering around the table, plus an extra 3-inch to his contagion range. He's pretty much equivalent to the generic Chaos Lord he's replacing, with his big Berserk sword being equivalent to a Power Fist with 6 attacks, lethal hits, and devastating wounds. This means he can brawl pretty well, but he won't be soloing entire units. In a surprise twist, the Bloat Drone with Blight Launcher is his own man, or Demon Engine now, getting a separate datasheet from the generic Bloat Drone. He's got a great gun that can melt elite infantry and light vehicles, and a combo is great with the Lord of Virulence, getting full rerolls to hit since it's a blast weapon. It can also turn whatever it kills into a contagion bomb, making units within 6 inches afflicted on a 5-up. This rule is more of a nice to have than something to build around, but the gun absolutely sells the unit on its own. Pretty much every datasheet has changed in some way, shape, or form, and neither you nor I want to sit around while I list each and every change off. Instead, we're going back to the list, baby. Here's 7 upsides and 3 downsides, because if I don't stay cute with the numbers, I will be fired. The 7 biggest upsides. Toughness. We mentioned it already, but it bears repeating. The toughest infantry in the game just got tougher, with +1 toughness to all Death Guard infantry, plus the Defiler for some reason. Toughness 6 Plague Marines put them at a very annoying breakpoint to remove, and Toughness 7 Terminators put them above almost all anti-infantry weapons. Lethal hits. Loads of random weapons got lethal hits, like the Predator Destructor Autocannon, the Defiler Battle Cannon, and the Blight Hauler Multi-Melta. These changes help these models punch above their weight. Affliction. We already talked about how this is better as an army rule, but there's a load of new rules that tee off of your Affliction ability. This helps the army feel unique as well as appealing to all the combo players out there who like creating setups and payoffs. Mortarion. Daddy's home and he's meaner than ever. He gets an extra 6 inches of range on his ranged weapons, and the Lantern gets an extra point of strength. The Scythe picks up devastating wounds, and while the damage on the strike moves to d6+1, the sweep is now one of the best in the game, hitting at a Marine murdering strength 8, AP 2, damage 2, with lethal and sustained hits 1. He no longer grants the ability to ignore modifiers. Instead, at the end of your movement phase, you roll for everything within 6 inches, and on a 3-up, they take D3 mortals, or 2-up if they're afflicted. His Lord of the Death Guard abilities change too, giving one of his friendly units a reactive 5-inch move, a 2-up fight on death, or letting them shoot after they get shot. They're all nifty, and he's worth building around. Vehicles. The Death Guard armor park got a whole lot more effective this book, with the aforementioned smattering of lethal hits giving them a load more self-sufficiency. Lords of Virulence are great at handing out buffs to these, especially giving full rerolls to hit on blast weapons, namely in your Plague Burst crawlers. Rhinos even give disembarking units rerolls to wound on a unit that jumped out, so your mechanized infantry are going to be hitting harder than ever. Terminators. Death Shrouds can deep strike outside of 6 inches of an afflicted unit and still charge, get an extra wound, plus more attacks than their sweep attacks. Light Lord melee weapons went up to damage 2, and now they get a bonus to hit and AP when shooting an afflicted unit. Even better, they can be led by the book's Terminator characters, all of whom got some kind of buff over their Index incarnation. It's a good time to be the chunkiest of Nurgle's sons. Plague Marines. The comparatively humble Plague Marine gets all of the stat increases we've already talked about, but also hands out Afflicted to whatever unit it shoots. Considering how many abilities key off Affliction and how many different types of great characters can join a Plague Marine unit, you've got a squad that's hardy enough to hang with the big guns, versatile enough to support your whole army, and dangerous enough to do some damage of its own. Now for the 3 biggest downsides. The Tallyman, Plague Surgeon, and Icon Bearer. These second string characters all took some hits, with the Tallyman granting an ignore modifier instead of just +1 to hit, the Plague Surgeon insisting he's not that kind of doctor and offering crits on 5s, just for himself, instead of being able to heal, and the Icon Bearer only gives his unit +1 OC and unbattle shocks the unit once per game. You were probably taking the Noxious Blight Spawn and Putrefier on your Plague Marines anyway. Demons. They're locked to the Taliban Summoner's detachment, meaning you can't take the units in this book anywhere else. And the Miasmic Malignifier still isn't very good? Look, we're really digging the bottom of the barrel to come up with bad stuff about this book. It's really hard. The old Plague Bong hands out a no reserve zone, but it can't hold in objectives, so it's still not doing much good. I told you, it's hard to find weaknesses in this book. We expect Death Guard to become an elite mid-range shooting army with some powerful melee options. You'll likely be seeing either bloat drones with launchers or plague burst crawlers in a lot of lists, paired with a Lord of Virulence alongside some Death Shroud Terminators. Aside from the healthy foundation of that firebase, there's a ton of flexibility in how you can build your army. From armor parks to zombie hordes to the world's stinkiest take on the Deathwing, it's looking extremely strong across the board, even if some of their detachments can be a little too focused. Elite forces of tough-as nails infantry supported by artillery absolutely fits the Death Guard lore and aesthetic, and it gives them a distinct identity separate from the more melee-focused flavors of Chaos Marine out there. They can still hang in close combat though. We spent most of our initial days with the Death Guard Codex trying to stop our eyes from bulging out of our skulls. This book looks to be extremely strong coming out the gate, albeit in different ways to the Emperor's Children, and the updated points only reinforce that idea. This is an army that's gonna feel implacable on the table and hit like a truck, and it'll be interesting to see whether they fall into the meta at the level of needs an immediate balance patch or merely one of the game's best armies. Those worries aside, this book absolutely nails the Death Guard feel and it gives them a load of tools to play with. If you're not sick of hearing about the Death Guard yet, head on over to Goonhammer.com, where we've got detachment focus articles, painting guides, and more. You can also give us a gift greater than any of Nurgle's, like $5 a month on Patreon. I've been Pustule McScabcrust, reminding you to get your flu shot. Thanks for watching.